Thank you to SOFIC for the opportunity to present today. I'm David Katz. I lead the government practice at Quid. As of yesterday, we were actually named top disruptor by CNBC, so we're proud of that, and called the ultimate trend spotter for what that's worth. Quid is a natural language processing augmented intelligence platform that allows your analysts, and Intel analysts in particular, to research, visualize, contextualize the world's written content. That could be news articles at a local level, in Libya as an example. That could be social media. That could be deep and dark web, which is what we're going to look at today. We're moving towards classified information as well. We were the second company funded by DIUX, and we're currently working with NSW, we're working with DHS, S&T, NSA, DoD, OTI, and a number of other government agencies. Use cases include strategic mission planning, information operations, tech scouting, and tech intelligence, and public affairs, among others. One of the things that we heard from some of your Intel analysts that time to insight and breadth of coverage and all the information that's coming at them, these are all things that are difficult for them to handle, and removing some of their personal bias when they're doing intelligence work is something they want to deal with as well. So all these things are things that Quid is particularly good at. For today, we did a search on ISIS-related forums within the deep and dark web data set. And we pulled out a few key insights. So there were a lot of them, but we honed in on three. One was that Shamoon malware attacks, these are cyber espionage attacks, were resurfacing with the potential launch of a version 3 of Shamoon. A second insight was that Archiveorg and Just Paste It were kind of the preferred video sharing and file sharing platforms of ISIS. And third was that the support for religious scholars outside of the typical ISIS geographic regions were growing. So we saw growth in Jordan, Sudan, and Saudi Arabia. Our analysts spent an hour or two looking at this, and they're not an expert in this area. Imagine what your analysts, who are experts in this, get access to large volumes of posts about ISIS in the deep and dark web or any data set, what insights they could pull out that would be actionable. So how do we do this? We do a search within the data set, and we start with a network visualization, which is what you're seeing here. Every node or circle, it's hard to see, but there's little dots, represent a piece of text. In this case, it would be a post on the deep and dark web. The algorithm reads those posts and organizes them according to different topics, which you see as different colors. So green and purple on the top, those are going to be two topics that are very similar to each other in content, but differentiated from the rest of the network, which is much more connected at the bottom. And when you zoom in, right, the algorithm actually names these segments automatically. So one might be about hacking, 10% of the posts were about hacking, another 10% were about religious scholar support for ISIS. So there were about 20 or 30 categories that the algorithm automatically segments and creates we call it an unsupervised machine learning environment. We're able now to translate foreign language, so some of these posts were actually in Arabic and we translated it into English. Others were in English. And we looked at 5 forums within the deep and dark web, which is what this analysis was done from. And other data sets include M3, HotR, open source enterprise, social media, hyper-local news publications, and we're moving towards classified as we get our security systems ramped up. So if we look at the Shamoon malware attacks resurfacing, we really saw them appear in 2 segments, one on hacking discussions and the other on jihad and attacks. And we're able to quantify how many times those topics were mentioned in the different segments. So 6 mentions of hacking discussions and 1 within jihad and attacks. I'll just read you one of these posts. When I said Shamoon 3, I meant Brother al-Brittani will make Shamoon 3 and launch another attack on the Kufr leaders. I wrote a message to our brothers administrators asking them to set up hacking courses in the Blessed Forum. So that was one of the posts that got categorized within the hacking discussions. Another within Jihad and Attacks was, is there a Khilafah cyber unit? I have small experience in hacking and would like to help where I can the struggle against the Kufr. Maybe Shamoon 3 in one of the banks of Kufar would be a little drop in their ocean. When we look at archive.org and just paste it, this was another insight for preferred sites for sharing files and videos. We saw that any posts that mention these sites, about 50% of them we're talking about using archive.org. 25% just paste it, and 25% YouTube. We can look at this over time and see certain spikes in topics or coverage. So if we look at B was really about online security. And the post said, Tor is used to anonymize online presence. Tor is generally considered more secure than VPN. So that was the focus of that analysis. And then A was really focused on Arabic posts about the video. So these were the translated posts. Mosul is mentioned most frequently as a location, and these were really comments about battles between ISIS and Iraqi forces. So there was a big spike in coverage as a reaction to a video that was just posted. When we look at the network broadly, we're able to search within the network, and we searched for Scholar and saw a number of different variations of Scholar. Scholars who possess, follow certain scholars, and about 18 mentions within the religious doctrine cluster. And one of the segments in red was really links to top scholars and publications that people should read. And the posts in purple there were really defending these top scholars. So these were just 3 insights we pulled out from Deep and Dark Web dataset. We are dataset agnostic as a platform. There's no substitute for great analysts, and having a great analyst coupled with this kind of technology should be able to lead to some great actionable insights. I'll leave it open for questions. Say it again. The time frame? The time frame, I believe, was, if we look back here, November 2015 to March of 2017 is when we were looking at those posts. The question was, what's our timeline to be able to work with classified information? We're working with an entity right now to start a pilot, hopefully any day now, to build Quid and C2S on the classified network and start working with classified information. Realistically, it'll probably take 3 to 5 months before we're able to do that, but the whole point of this would be to bring groups like you through and start working with your data sets. Okay, thank you. Oh. We update every 10 to 15 minutes, news and blogs.